CEO of the South Texas Builders Association and a Trump voter who traveled to Washington last week told Politico, quote, "I told lawmakers South Texas will never be red again."
Most people think this is a follow-up story about Republicans suddenly going soft on immigration. It isn't. It's about what happens when enforcement collides with reality, and even the people that supported it start to pay the price. In my last video, I covered how Republican lawmaker Monica de la Cruz introduced the Essential Workers for Economic Advancement Act, a bill that would provide temporary renewable visas for non-citizens to work in hard-to-staff skilled industries like construction, trade, and labor-intensive work. And once you look at what's happening on the ground in Texas, that bill starts to make a whole lot more sense, because this isn't pressure coming from the left, it's coming from the Republican home builders, and that should make people pause.
Construction executives say that they didn't expect enforcement to go quite this far, particularly in Republican strongholds like Southern Texas.
Here's what's changed. Across Texas, especially South Texas, Republican builders are saying out loud what they used to just whisper, that current ICE tactics are hurting their industry, not hypothetically, not politically, economically. Projects are slowing, crews are shrinking, costs are rising. And these aren't activists. They aren't Antifa. They aren't the domestic terrorists my comment sections insist are behind everything. These are Republican voters, Republican donors, Republican business owners.
And the government's argument in that case is that it is up to businesses, not workers, to push back. They are the ones who have the standing to sue. So why haven't you seen that kind of pushback from the industry?
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan of y'all's show. But what I believe that it is that we know that construction sites are basically considered to be open to the public. So meaning that at any given day, if you're walking around and you see a house that's under construction, you can walk into it. There's nothing that's basically separating you from the house and a person to enter that particular construction site at any given time. So it's really hard for a construction company to go ahead and actually sue the administration in regards to that.
Some are even saying what was the unthinkable a few years ago, that South Texas may never be red again if this continues. Not just because of ideology, but because livelihoods are getting crushed. So what did these builders do? They went to Washington. A group of concerned Republican home builders met with an unnamed ICE department head to explain what was happening to their workforce. And the response they got was revealing. They were told to build fences around their job site so they could be treated as private property. That was the solution. Put up fences.
Now, we were in Washington about a week ago with Mr. Henry Cuellar that put these meetings on and together with us. And on one of the meetings that we had, it was with somebody directly from ICE. I cannot say his name. We were asked to make sure that we do keep his name off records. But one of the things that we did talk about was the private property. You know, we do buy these particular pieces of land. We do purchase them outright. We also go ahead and build on them. And we wanted to know what is private property. Now, like I said, and I'll reiterate, it's not considered private property if it's not fenced in. So now we're taking that information and we're already in the moves of fencing in our construction sites, because they're saying that you need to fence it in order to be considered private property.
Now, let's be honest. Nobody believes a fence is going to stop ICE from targeting workers.
No!
Not the builders, not the workers, not anyone watching this video.
Seriously? You tell that to some American citizens in red states that their private property that's not fenced in is subject to warrantless search, and woo!
Well, we have had people on the show who have actually had federal agents jump over fences in order to do what they wanted to do. So I'm not sure that will
to catch construction workers.
And even more importantly, that advice quietly admits something, that ICE knows that enforcement is spilling directly into workplaces and disrupting entire industries. Here's where the story turns darker. After one of these Republican builders spoke out publicly about the damages being done in his industry, he started receiving death threats. Let that sink in. A Republican voter, a business owner, speaking out about shortages and rising housing costs. threatened. And of course, some people will immediately decide that this must be the work of Antifa or a Democratic domestic terrorist or some other left-wing conspiracy. Why? Because it's easier to blame a cartoon villain than accept the fact that this issue is fracturing the right itself.
It's not just a financial hit, right? This has actually gotten personal for you. Since you've started speaking out, you've faced death threats.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, I have. I find it funny, you know, like I think it's very sad because we should understand as American citizens that we live in the best country in the world. We're able to have open dialogue like we're having here today, and we should be able to raise our concerns.
It isn't just a left versus right thing anymore. It's reality versus narrative. And that's why bills like the Essential Workers for Economic Advancement Act are appearing. Not because the Republicans suddenly changed their values, but because economics are forcing the issue. You can't celebrate aggressive enforcement, lose your workforce, watch housing costs go on the rise, and expect voters and businesses to stay quiet. At some point, something's got to give. And when Republican builders start lobbying Washington for visas, that tells you we've crossed from ideology into consequence. So the real question isn't, are Republicans becoming soft on immigration? It's this. Can the enforcement continue at this pace without breaking housing, construction, and regional economies? Because if even deep red Texas is proposing work visas, and if even Republican builders are getting threatened for speaking out, that tells you that this problem is no longer partisan, it's structural. And ignoring it won't make it go away. It'll just keep making housing more expensive, labor harder to find, and political divisions even deeper. If you want more breakdowns like this, where we follow incentives instead of slogans, stick with the Independent Mail. Because when the base starts turning on itself, that's when the real story begins. Until next time, party people, peace and stay informed.